the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, and we have to deal with one big, beautiful tax cut bill, spending and tax cut and deregulation bill. Steve, welcome back to the show. Just right at the top, you're putting in a much bigger economic growth rate than the Congressional Budget Office, which, by the way, put out some kind of update today and once again said extending the tax cuts is going to cost close to $4 trillion, despite the fact that revenues have been rising ever since 2017 when that bill was put into place. But I want to talk to you about your own estimates. You're looking for 4% plus in the first year or two, and roughly 3% plus in the next bunch of years, and that makes a big difference in revenues, in deficits, and in debt. Tell us about your estimates and why you're above the CBO.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Larry. It's good to see you. The Council of Economic Advisors just put out a white paper. It's on our website. You can get it at the CEA website on the White House website. And we found exactly what you said, that over the next 4 years, the tax bill, the one big beautiful bill, would boost GDP, would boost the economy by about 4.2 to 5.2% over the next 4 years relative to what happens if the bill doesn't pass. It'll create about 7 million new jobs, and it'll boost take-home pay for a typical family of four, take-home pay by about $8,000 to $13,000, right? So these are very significant growth effects, and that's why it's so critical that we get this bill over the line.
So help me out on this. I don't understand. I keep reading in various publications, the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere, the news pages of these papers, that the Republican plan is going to increase deficits by $3 trillion over the next 10 years. Now, the CBO baseline itself increases deficits by $20 trillion over the next 10 years. Under Biden, it was roughly $2 trillion a year. Now, this is their own baseline. So you're going to come in at $3 trillion. That would be a lot less than the $20 trillion, and probably it slopes down, although we haven't seen exactly what the House is going to produce. We'll have to see the scorecard later. Or, for example, with your kind of growth rate, there aren't going to be any deficits at all. Let's say the next 3 or 4 years, 5 years, there'll still be deficits, and then they'll evaporate. But where's this plus $3 trillion come from?
Look, I'm so glad you brought this up, and I think it's really unfortunate that this conversation tends to be dominated by the CBO scoring process, because the Congressional Budget Office leaves out so much when they're calculating their scores. Here's all the things they leave out that are going to bring the deficit way down. They leave out the fact that this bill is going to boost growth. It's going to boost economic growth, which is huge. We get economic growth to 3%. It creates $4 trillion new revenues over a decade, right? Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two is tariff revenue. We're taking in hundreds of billions on an annualized basis of tariff revenue. That brings down deficit another percentage point of GDP. Number three is going to be interest expenses. This bill and deregulation together kill inflation. By pushing out the supply side of the economy, we kill inflation completely. That allows interest rates to come down. If they come down to where they were before COVID, that's another point at least off the deficit. And then there's cuts to waste, fraud, and abuse. Between all these things, we can reduce deficit by about 3 to 4 percentage points worth of GDP. This is huge, and none of it's in the scoring process. So it's really unfortunate that the CBO scoring process dominates the conversation.
And there is a considerable amount of savings from Medicaid and other programs that the House has just come up with, okay? And they may not be done. And the Senate may go beyond that, okay? $1.5 trillion worth, or maybe more than that. See, I just don't understand how the deficit can go up if you have pro-growth tax cuts, all right, incentives to produce, incentives to invest. All that's going to calm the inflation rate down. You've got the tariff revenues coming in. Okay, you've got that. You've got budget cuts coming in. That's what is so baffling to me. And I keep reading, not that deficits are on a downward glide path, but that they're actually going to go up $3 trillion. But wait a minute, even if they went up $3 trillion, Steve, even if they did, it would still be less than the $20 trillion under Joe Biden, where you had $2 trillion deficits as far as the eye can see. You follow? What are these newsrooms thinking?
Yeah, well, look, they're just following what the CBO is putting out, and the CBO is focusing on one tiny part of the fiscal policy and one tiny part of the economy, and they're ignoring all this other stuff that's going on that you described. But I think it's pretty obvious that tax cuts created the economic boom in President Trump's first term, and debt to GDP was stable. Debt as a share of GDP was very stable, and tax cuts are going to create the economic boom in President Trump's second term also. It's very simple.
And you're saying also for middle income folks, working folks, I would call blue collar folks, their after tax take home pay is going to go up because tax savings are going to go up. Just give us a little bit of wisdom on that.
Yeah, so there's a number of things going on. First of all is direct tax cuts, which improve people's take-home pay. Number two is that GDP is going to go higher because of all the economic activity we're going to create. And the president's proposals, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax relief for seniors, right? These are all going to create a booming economy with additional labor supply. And then the tax incentives for firms to invest in America, full expensing on equipment, full expensing on factories, right? These are huge incentives for firms to invest in the United States, build facilities in the United States, hire in the United States. And all this creates higher wages. Real wages will go up by about $6,000 to $11,000, and because families get to keep more of the taxes every week of their money that they make every week, take-home pay that's higher wages and lower taxes goes up by about $8,000 to $13,000 for a family of four.
Big numbers.
Big numbers.
Yeah, terrific stuff.